So let's get started on the basics of using Inkscape. I've opened up Inkscape. This is about what it looks like by default. It should open up a new document for you. So by default, we look at a portrait document. And the first thing you might want to do is you might want to work in landscape, and you might want to change the size of your document. So I'm working on PC. This should be very similar on Mac. I don't think I've ever used Inkscape on Linux, but I know it's available. So it should be very similar regardless of your context. So if we go into the File menu and go to Document Properties, what we see in the Document Properties is a checkbox for either Portrait or Landscape. So as I change this, we'll see that our document will shift between those two. The other thing that we have in this Document Properties window is the width and the height. So if you're developing a poster and you know it has to be a certain size, you can drop that right in here and make sure that your document is that size. The other thing you can do is if you develop a lot of content afterwards, you can just highlight it all and then resize to that content. So if you're not necessarily developing something on a certain size page, if you're just developing a graphic and you want to export it to a bitmap, you can just highlight your graphic and resize the page, and then whatever's on that page will be exported to your image. So that's the basic manipulation of the canvas itself. So I'm just going to leave the size and the width. I'm not too concerned about what those are at this point, and I'm just going to leave it at that. So the other thing that I tend to do a lot when I want to either manipulate a specific area of my document is to zoom in and out. So the plus and the minus buttons are your zoom capability. So I can plus to zoom in, I can minus to zoom out. So a lot of times I'll want to work on a very detailed area of a document, and I'll just want to move in and out very quickly. So I'll just use the plus and minus keys to do that. That's probably also up in the menu somewhere. So here's zoom in and out. So you see there's a couple presets. If you hit 1, it'll go to 1 to 1, and it'll vary based on that. So if you remember those keystrokes, you can manipulate the size very quickly. So the other thing that I tend to use a lot when I want to basically get a good idea of how I want my page laid out is I use the guides. So the guides are created by dragging from either the top ruler or the side ruler. So if again, we haven't talked about doing poster designs yet, but if you look at a lot of posters, there's usually a basic design flow to it. So what you can do is you can use guides to kind of give you an idea of what the flow of your poster will look like. So if I drag a guide down from the top, I'm probably going to have some kind of outside border. I'm going to have the same thing on the bottom. I'll have an equivalent border on the right hand side, and then a border on the left hand side. So that's my basic white space region around the document. So then what I'll say is given that I'm working in landscape, I'm going to want to have my title region. I'm not sure exactly how large I'm going to want it to be. So I'll just drop that right there. And again, this is just for me to kind of visualize how I want things. And then I'm going to want some white space between that title bar and my content. And then what I've seen very frequently is to use 3 columns of content throughout the body. So let's put we could use the rulers up top to measure this, but I'm just going to try to lay it out very briefly here. We could then have some gutters here as well to make sure that there's some distance between the various pieces of the body. So that's the basic tools you have here, and if you select one of these guidelines, you can just delete it by hitting the delete key. So once it's red, you can just delete that. The other thing you can do is you can just grab these and drag them back to the top, and that'll get rid of them as well. So I mean, certainly it's not something you have to do, but it's a nice little tool if you want to try to visualize your content and make sure you understand what you're doing and where you're going with your document. So some other basic pieces on the toolbar on the left, we have text. So we could put some text here. So I'll say this is my title. Again, I'm not going to suggest whether all caps is appropriate or not. So now that I've got that, what I can do is I can drag, and what I'll want to do is I'll hold the control key, and again, this is a PC thing. It might be a little bit different on a Mac, to make sure that I'm scaling both the size and the width together. So this is how I'll do that. So another basic thing that I can do in addition to text is, and this is something I showed you before, this would be rectangle. So now that I have these guides, I can actually snap to them, or I can just put content right inside here. So I'm going to drag a couple boxes, and then with these boxes, something I alluded to earlier, I can grab this circle and I can make it rounded or not. So whether or not that fits into your design, that's up to you. So I think that's a good breaking point. That's the basics of document layout. We've looked at guides, we've looked at text, orientation, size of the page. So I think that's a good stopping point, and we'll pick up with a little bit different content in the next video.